Hey guys, been a long time. Welcome back. So, last I heard in the past few weeks, in the video game world of things, we've been eating good. And 2024 is going to be a busy year, from the Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2, Rebirth, to, maybe a little something you might have heard of in passing, Tomb Raider making a comeback. So, yeah, to the shock of literally everybody, after years and years of pleading and begging and begging and pleading and pleading and crying and sobbing and begging and praying to whatever god or deity you believe in, somebody over in Eidos or Embark or Crystal Dynamics or Aspire...
That's the name of the group that's doing this. Right?
Finally listened, and lo and behold, we are finally getting the Tomb Raider HD Remastered collection. Now, what's kind of funny about this is I feel like I may have predicted this, because I remember a few years back, I made a mock-up cover specifically of an HD collection for the PS5, which consisted of only Tomb Raider 1, 2, and 3. Now, the reason I did it was because it made sense, because these three are standalone adventures that don't really narratively sync up with each other, so it just kind of felt easy.
But they don't really contradict each other either.
No.
They fit together. Yeah.
They're very much Indiana Jones style stories. They're singular stories that don't really talk about one or the other. Then we get to the next games, but that's a whole different beast for another time.
The funny thing, Will, I always thought that the Remaster collection was like the video game version of a unicorn, or Sasquatch. Like you want to believe it's out there, but there's no actual visual evidence or any evidence that was ever going to happen. So I have to admit, I did see like a teaser. I don't know if you saw this on social media. There was like a little bit of like a teaser of that something from Tomb Raider was coming up. I'm like, oh, they're going to announce a new game or something. But I wasn't expecting a remastered collection. That was a nice treat.
I mean, because I'd seen those a lot, because we had already been told numerous times that they're going to be unifying the timeline and that they were working on something.
You hear a lot of things over the past couple years from Crystal Dynamics, but, unified Lara, I don't even know what that means.
It's taking the shadow of the Tomb Raider timeline, and they are going to actually converge it with the anniversary timeline.
But is that still going on? Because,
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, apparently it is.
Despite the fact that Crystal Dynamics has been hit by some layoffs recently due to the whole Embracer Group downsizing thing. So,
Embracer Group was making a lot of purchases. So.
Yeah, and, Bill, it's hard to run multiple video games companies if you don't have any money.
It certainly is, because
when I heard like this $1 billion deal they had fell through, I'm like, oh, that's not good.
Yeah. And then it was heard that I guess Amazon got involved.
I keep hearing that there's like also like a couple of series that are in the works, so I don't know. It just seems like I just miss the days of Tomb Raider being in Square Enix. I know, that's me. I just thought that was kind of cool that Tomb Raider was in the same umbrella as Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts, but now Tomb Raider's kind of off in the ether right now on its own.
Well, let's face it, guys. Unfortunately, at this point, it looks like Tomb Raider will never make an appearance in Kingdom Hearts. Well, damn.
I think Kingdom Hearts will be okay with all the stuff they have access to.
Probably. Meanwhile, let's talk about the classic games
Back
here.
on focus here. Yes.
All right, so during Nintendo's press conference, their Nintendo Direct, out of blue, the legendary Raider returns, and there it was, like, the classic trilogy remastered. Now, to my surprise, very, very little bitching.
Because I think they did it the right way, Bill. It's a collection with the first three.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you have the originals, the way they look, but you can also have the upgraded, and they coexist. Mm-hmm. So you can do original, or if you want to try the new visuals, you can do that as well. I think that's very smart. That's like the best of both worlds.
Now
go on.
First thing I want to mention is that this is technically not the first time we've seen the classic Tomb Raider games get an upscale in visuals. Back in 2013, for the iOS of all things, yeah, they did re-release Tomb Raider 2, and some of its textures actually did get some upscaled and new imagery treatment. Not all the levels; it was very pick and choosy. Like some of the early levels got some HD looks, while the rest of the levels remained largely untouched. And then it just quietly disappeared. And
Yeah.
why that happened, who was responsible for this, who did this, nobody knows. Or maybe they do know. It was just a weird anomaly. It's like, why did this come and go? And then fans were able to take those assets and like make mods for it for the PC versions.
Right.
And now here we are with these new people, Aspire, which rumor has it, I'm not entirely sure, that all this time they may have been the ones that had the source codes for
Really?
the original Tomb Raider
That's
games.
why this is happening, because it's another company other than Crystal Dynamics. Because you knew that Crystal Dynamics really wasn't going to touch the original.
Yeah, and it really was
games
one of
at
those.
all.
It really did feel like one of those damned if they do, damned if they didn't situations, because it's like, would you be accepting to Crystal Dynamics touching anything of the original Tomb Raider games because they had nothing to do with their creation?
Well, that's the thing too, is that this is very key. Is that this is a remaster. It's taking the original and upgrading it. What we got in Tomb Raider Anniversary was really more of a reimagining.
Yeah, it was a remake.
Yeah, it was taking the first game and remaking it to fit in the legend.
Yeah.
Time.
And of
this
course,
is actual remaster.
Yeah, and the remaster remake, terminology has kind of blurred over the years.
It has. It really has.
Because
in a lot of
you
ways.
have the Spyro, the Dragon Reignited trilogy, and the Crash Insane trilogy, which are, it's hard to say, are those remasters or are those remakes? Because they are exactly the same game, they just look very, very much prettier. And there have been people that said that they wish that Tomb Raider would have got that same kind of love. And I agree, like, I always thought that, like, alright, if they were going to remaster the original Tomb Raider games, I would like to see them get the same type of visual upgrade that the Spyro the Dragon Reignited trilogy was getting. This, however, is a happy medium.
Yeah, let me tell you, personally,
Mhm.
I always was hoping that Tomb Raider would have gotten the Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3 treatment.
I mean, it could have looked interesting, but considering that it's very different breed of game, very hard to translate that, especially when you have to keep the iconic visuals looking the way they do. So now here we are with the Remastered Collection. What do we know? And let's talk about that. First of all, the first thing we immediately notice is Lara Croft's model has gotten a complete do-over. It looks just like it does in the FMV cutscenes that you see like in Tomb Raider 4, which is honestly what I wanted. It was like,
Yes,
with the technology being what it is today, why can't we have the classic Tomb Raider games look like the FMV cutscenes that we see sprinkled throughout like Tomb Raider 4? And we sort of got that because her model does look pretty damn close to that.
I was very impressed with the new model.
Yeah.
I'm very impressed with it. It looks very true to the original,
Yeah.
character model.
Now, one thing that made me believe the rumor that Aspire may have had the source codes for the original Tomb Raider was the fact that we now have a fully braided, functioning Lara Croft in Tomb Raider 1.
Yes.
This is something even the fans couldn't get right.
Wow.
Yeah, after all these years, even after all the beautiful mods we've seen for the original Tomb Raider 1, including the huge texture update, which changes all the textures like you've seen. I've even live streamed it, where the first game can have all new textures, like with the JC mods I'm sure some of you know about. Like, the one thing that they could never do, nobody has been able to do, is make Tomb Raider 1's Lara Croft actually look correct with the actual braid coming down and swaying around.
Amazing to think you would have that much trouble over a braid.
So yeah, the fact that these guys are able to do it, like, okay, do they have the source codes? I believe it.
Question.
Yeah.
When you pop in Remastered and you start playing it, are you going to do the original graphics or the remastered?
Remastered, absolutely.
Okay, is it true that you can toggle back and forth between them instantly?
They said that you could,
That's pretty sweet.
which
That's
means
cool.
which means that really it's just a graphical overlay.
Okay.
So it's not a different game. They really didn't change.
Because it's still blocky, as the way it should be.
It kind of has to be. And some people, even on Twitter, like, I noticed a lot of people were talking and saying things without any official proof, saying like, oh yeah, now that these games are going to be on the modern consoles, they're going to change up everything to make it so new players can get it. They're going to change the really crappy controls. And I'm just like, where is this coming from?
That annoys me.
Mm-hmm.
I've never thought that the Tomb Raider controls were bad.
They're not.
You just have to get used to them.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, I'm not the best gamer in the world, but I've never had problems playing a Tomb Raider game.
I was 7 years old when I was playing these games, and I still managed people.
And and the great thing too about these games, you have this nice little thing called Lara's Mansion,
Mm-hmm.
where what you can do there, you can practice.
That's the tutorial.
That's the tutorial.
It is quite literally the first thing you see when you turn on the game. It doesn't start you off on the new game. It starts you off on the image of Lara's house, basically instructing you, you might want to go here and figure out how she moves. It's a safe area. You're not in any potential danger unless you dive off her balcony.
I've never had problem with any, like, I love the legend controls from Tomb Raider Legend. I just love how Lara feels and how she moves. I've always loved that, love those, but I've never had problems with the classic ones either. No. The only one I really had problems with was, and we'll wonder if we get to that, is Angel of Darkness. That one took a little while to get used to.
And even then.
You're like,
it's like, once you adapt to its crap factor, it's like, alright, I know that if I do this certain way, it might work, it might not. We'll see how it goes. It's just, Angel of Darkness is, and that's actually one thing I wanted to mention. It's like, alright, so say that this first HD collection sells well. Does this mean we'll probably get another one?
Absolutely.
Probably, most definitely.
Full Last Revelation, Chronicles, and Angel of Darkness.
Will it include Angel of Darkness, though? Because
I think it has to. It will. I mean, Mega Man X Collection had X6, so come on, it's got a Tomb Raider Collection have Angel.
That's mean. X6 is actually good. X7 is the one that was actually problematic. And yeah, X7 actually got a little more fun. I think it's because the collection on that actually reduced the loading times to practically non-existent. So it's like, what happens? X7 suddenly got tolerable.
It has to. I mean, when they announced that it's the first three, now of course it's all banks on the fact if it sells well. If it does sell well, there's no reason why they can't do Tomb Raider Collection Part 2 with 4, 5, and 6. And I know those games are a little more controversial than the first three because they were trying to do something a little. They were more doing something a little more different. But I just think there wouldn't be any reason not to. You know.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to the collection, the next thing I want to talk about, adding on to the character model is like quality.
And I like Angel of Darkness. Don't get me wrong. I still have fun with it.
It's a guilty pleasure.
But I can still acknowledge that
it's fucked up.
It has some problems. I'm trying to be a little more PC about this, but yeah,
it's fucked up beyond belief. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I know the backstory about it. It's a guilty pleasure, but I can't judge the game based on what it was supposed to be.
I can only judge it by the way it is,
and it's crap.
Yeah. Continue.
All right, so to the Lara Croft model and I'm wondering about quality of life improvements, if any. So now that we have new high resolution textures sprinkled all over the place, which I'm hoping that, unlike the Grand Theft Auto HD collection that they released a year or so back, assuming it was that long, some people were already comparing this to that, wondering if it was a quick patch job, because GTA kind of had a similar thing where some of the textures got the HD resolution treatment, others did not. And one thing I did notice in the trailer for this game is that, while there's a lot of textures and a lot of characters that got redesigns that make them look gorgeous, I did notice some of the level textures actually look relatively untouched, which has me a little cautiously concerned whether or not we're looking at a pre-done build or if they still have things to touch up. I'm not sure. It was mostly in the snow area. And like some of the early levels in Tomb Raider 1 where I was like, okay, those textures still look untouched. I guess we'll see. But now that we have high-resolution models of Lara Croft and stuff, one thing that we do know that was for certain in Tomb Raider 1 through 3, because of the time period, facial animations did not exist.
That really came around. That didn't come out until the fourth one, I think.
No, until the
fourth. Like grit her teeth when she's like shooting her pistol.
Well, no, like gritting her teeth that existed, but I'm talking during cutscenes.
Oh, right.
So yeah, they just did.
Sorry,
yeah, they just did the head bobbing thing.
Hello.
So now so now that we have high resolution models that actually look like the characters, are they going to go the extra mile and actually animate their faces during cutscenes?
Pardon me, if there's no way of getting the door.
Yeah, so it would look pretty bad if we have a high resolution Lara Croft just bobbing her head back and forth with dead eyes and no facial animation. So I really hope they went the extra mile and actually animated the faces.
My biggest fear, and I don't know how much you're worried about this, I hope these games play the way they're supposed to. I hope there's nothing janky with the control, because no matter how good the graphics are, if your controls are, not good, I hope there's no slowdowns or I don't know. I hear sometimes there's horror stories come up when you have collections or, HD remakes. I just hope that the controls translate from the original to the new ones the way they're supposed to.
Yeah, based on what we heard in the trailer, with them including all of the levels.
I'm sorry, before you continue, worst example I've ever had. I don't know if you remember this, but many, many years ago, I bought Rockman 2 on my PlayStation 3. And I would press the button and it'd be like a full second delay.
Yeah, there's a delay in the jump button. It's like, oh my god, this is unplayable.
This is unplayable for Mega Man. Go ahead.
But yeah,
I hope there's nothing like that.
I hope not either, for God's sake. So yeah, based on what we know in the trailer, they said they're going to be including all of the exclusive levels like Unfinished Business,
cool.
the Golden Mask,
That's
the Lost
cool.
Artifact, things that were not originally in the console versions. Now, with these inclusions, it leads me to believe that these builds of the games are based off of the PC versions.
Okay.
Which means that we're going to get widescreen support.
Yeah. I've never played Tomb Raider on PC. PC. I never played Tomb Raider on PC.
They're largely the same, just with little bit differences here and there. Like there's hotkeys so that you can do stuff. One big thing that I'm actually curious about is the crystals in Tomb Raider 3.
The save systems. Interesting.
On the console version of Tomb Raider 3, we had those blue crystals, which you had to keep in your inventory because that was how you saved the game. On the PC version, that was not the case.
Ooh.
On the PC version, you could save anytime you wanted. The crystals in that version were green, and when you found them, all they did was refill your health. So yeah, for some reason they intentionally made the console version of Tomb Raider 3 that much harder because you couldn't save whenever you wanted.
Interesting.
Yeah, but now...
What would you prefer?
Save anywhere you want.
And you want that uniform for all 3 games?
Yes, in Tomb Raider 1, it was you had to find a crystal and save on the spot. That was it. You're done. Tomb Raider 2 on console and on PC, you could save anywhere you wanted, period.
Okay.
And oddly enough, when Tomb Raider 3 came out, they decided to take that feature away from console players, and it's like, now we're back to crystals, and now you can stock them. But on PC, you can save anywhere you want, it doesn't matter. I think for the sake of modern gamers, and since there is no autosave function, like how we have checkpoints everywhere in video games these days,
right,
you kind of have to give players that ability to save the game whenever they want.
Can they put two different types of save features in a game, or would that be too much work?
I think they could, but one thing I don't think they would be able to do is add auto checkpoints.
Yeah.
Although that would be an amazing feature if they did. Adding just a checkpoint system every 2 minutes of gameplay or so, just out of nowhere you get a little notification or a little loading bar in the corner that says that we created a checkpoint for you just in case you screw up. Because in this day and age, we are so used to games doing their auto-saving for us, and whenever we die, there's virtually no consequence
for losing.
There really isn't.
No, yeah.
But in these games, you're going to be reminded that if you don't save your game, you are going to be sent back to the beginning of the level.
Yes, this is you got to have that old school
mentality.
90s mentality when you go in here, you know.
And it got even worse when Tomb Raider 4 came around because it was no longer a matter of you restart the level when you die. It's like, no, your ass goes back to the title screen.
Yeah. you had to screw your stuff on tight back in the day when you want to play a Tomb Raider game.
Yeah, so they just made it harder and harder and harder. Those are the quality of life features that I'm wondering if we're going to get. How are the faces going to animate with the new models? Are they going to animate at all? Are the entirety of the games going to...
Are we going to get the original voice model work, or are we going to get a new voiceover?
No. As far as I know, everything is going to be exactly the same as it originally was. And I think that's great. No matter what happens, this is ultimately a big win for Tomb Raider fans because there's a lot of talk these days about video game preservation and how it's become a big problem these days on how companies...
So many games are disappearing.
Yeah, getting lost to time or just disappearing, or that there's just no modern way to play these games outside of dusting off an old console, which admittedly will inevitably die, or emulation, which, while it's definitely an option, it's not the truest way to play these games because with emulation you're not always getting an accurate representation.
Right.
So yeah, video game preservation is a big issue, and it is nice to finally see at least 1 through 3 of Tomb Raider finally getting some modern love, and we're able to play these games if originally on new hardware, or if you want the new HD treatment, you can play that too. And being able to toggle between the two of them is just a really nice touch.
Do you think it's possible we can get a collection featuring the handheld games, just like Castlevania did with their Advanced collection. You think that's an idea, or is that more pie in the sky?
That really does feel like it's a pie in the sky. It's like there's no reason why.
Two games from the Game Boy. I think there's 2 games from the Game Boy and then one from the Advance. I think it was.
Yeah, well, I mean, not counting like all the different versions of Tomb Raider Legends, because Tomb Raider Legends was released on everything.
Well, let me just rephrase it. Like original adventures meant for the handheld.
Yeah, you got Tomb Raider: The Prophecy, Tomb Raider,
the something Blade, I think.
Yeah, pretty much Game Boy Color games. It would be nice if those were like unlockables. Like if you find if you find all the secrets in Tomb Raider 1 to unlock the first Game Boy game, find all the Jade Dragons in Tomb Raider 2 to unlock the Game Boy Color version of Tomb Raider 2, and beat Tomb Raider 3 and find all the secrets, you'll never pull it off. To unlock the Game Boy Advance game. So plenty of options. It's curious to see what they have in store for it. So yeah, I'm just really excited to see.
I am too. I've already made my pre-order for the PlayStation 5.
Yeah, like
I might even get it for the Switch. You know, I really hope this does
buy multiple copies. It like helps sales.
I want this collection to succeed.
Yeah,
because I would love to see this version of Tomb Raider continue, which I think it's time. Like we did I know the whole Unified thing. We did like the whole Crystal thing, the Legend trilogy. I like the Survivor trilogy. I'm fine with it.
I like them for what they are.
I like it for what they are.
But then again, I'm
ready to go back to the original.
Yeah, but I also like Castlevania Lords of Shadow.
So did I.
Yeah, which apparently it's like if you're a Castlevania fan, no. Bad baby.
I know.
So
I hope this continues.
Yeah, we're going through the original images right now just to take a look at some of them. And yeah, but as you can see, like some of those cave walls over there, like those are pretty much from the original game. Those look largely untouched.
Yeah, I don't think they needed that big of an update. I think they still look fine.
Yeah, like the wolf's polygons, I'm not sure. It's a little hard to tell. The wolf looks a little untouched, but maybe he looks.
The wolf looks so cute.
Maybe it's fine. The next image, this one actually is impressive. This is from the Great Wall of Tomb Raider 2. Now those walls are absolutely redone.
Yes.
Like those are brand new walls. Like everything here is brand new. The skeleton on the ground looks way better. Yes. It's not a bright white skeleton anymore. It actually looks visually correct. Some people actually were complaining about the spikes on the walls, saying like, "Where's the blood? Where's the redness?"
Looks kind of bloody to me.
Well, and it makes sense the way they have it now, because what happens to blood over time? It turns black. It wouldn't make sense for blood to be bright red all the time.
Right.
So yeah, just the imagery here looks really good. I really like what I'm seeing here. Now, obviously, they couldn't change the proportions of the textures of the areas, so everything is going to have their corners and stuff like you see here with the grounds, like everything. They still have to look like a box, and that's because of the mechanics of the game. When Lara's running and jumping and grabbing on legends, everything has to be...
You couldn't make this like photorealistic now, because then it wouldn't match the model or the gameplay.
Yeah, I mean, you can try, because like the textures are completely redone with higher resolution images. So they still look fantastic.
Oh, of course, look great.
But they still have to have that boxed design, just because that's how the game functions.
Yes.
Back in the day, when they were designing these video games back in the 3D world, they had to make everything work seamlessly and together. Like it all was very symbiotic in a sense. It all had to come together. So when you start messing with certain things, if they started messing with textures to try to make it look a little more leveled out, well, suddenly that's going to make it so can Lara even grab that ledge anymore?
Right.
Like, can you feasibly do it?
You're climbing a wall, you're like a foot away from it. Like, what?
Yeah.
So right, it has to stay that way, because that's the way the games were back then.
So yeah, it's basically, I'm expecting this. I'm expecting the entirety of all three games to look like this, where it's just the same boxes, sure, but have incredible high-resolution images. And then there are some cases, like here, the foliage over there, where those are additions. That was not there originally. So they actually are going out of their way to make some additions with the visuals, like with the foliage and the trees. So especially, I imagine with the jungle level in Tomb Raider 3 is probably going to look gorgeous.
Man.
Like
the jungle level in Tomb Raider 3, that brought back some nightmares.
Yeah. One quality of life improvement I am hoping for Tomb Raider 3 is, oh my god, guys, fix the brightness. I know that they were going for realism, like when you're in a deep jungle.
Oh yeah, when you're in those dark areas, it's like, dude, I don't know where.
Tomb Raider 3 is too dark for its own good, and I'm not talking dark as an edgy. I'm talking it's dark.
I will say though, playing Tomb Raider 3 with you had one of the funniest moments I've ever had as a gamer. We're in that corridor, right?
Mm-hmm.
I jump out of the way of one of those rolling boulders into a hallway. I think I'm safe. I turn the camera, here comes another boulder. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, like, my opinions on Tomb Raider 3, I'll save that for another video, but
it's a fun game to play, but you just have to be like, you have to be dedicated to it. You have to be patient with it.
Tomb Raider 3 is the game where the developers were clearly mad at us.
Bill always says, explore every option. Explore every option. You have to do that with Tomb Raider 3.
Tomb Raider 3 is the game that made me question, why did it take 7 games for Lara to finally take a flashlight? Why are we using disposable flares when she could use a battery-powered flashlight? It took Tomb Raider 7 Legend for her to finally have a click-on flashlight. I'm like, you know what? Why doesn't she have that in Tomb Raider 3? You know how, like, it's so hard to see crap in Tomb Raider 3.
Oh man, what's that level? Is it the London level where she's in the black outfit?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna be interesting too. There's some dark areas in that place too.
Yeah, like everything is so dark in Tomb Raider 3. I get, like, Tomb Raider 3 is clearly where they made leaps and bounds with the graphics, because now fire actually had a glow effect. There was a lot of bloom. Like, areas looked a lot cleaner, and even the water looked better. But my god, man, like, the lighting in Tomb Raider 3, I know they thought they were being clever with the lighting because it's more ambient and more atmospheric when you have these caves that are not fully lit like they are in Tomb Raider 1 and 2.
Right.
They should be dark and dang, and it's like, yeah, I get it, but what good is it if I can't fucking see? And, like, to hope that the player actually stockpiled enough flares, it's like, you could reasonably have a dead game if you can't see.
Right.
So, yeah, if there's anything I'm hoping they do, at least try to brighten up the levels, because it does get pretty damn hard to see. Like, I don't know if that's just me and my television's brightness settings, but yeah, I remember having to brighten it up. But yeah, like,
Will there be different screen options? Can you go widescreen, sorter screen, like original, filter, you know?
I mean, it'd be cool,
yeah,
but who
you
knows?
see that a lot in collections too.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to say. We have actually gotten some people asking, like, now that we are having these new collections coming out, are we going to make new commentary videos?
Really?
We have gotten a few people asking. Will there be new...
Can you speedrun these games?
That's what I was wondering. It's like,
do they have all
the glitches?
Or did they wipe all that stuff out?
Or did they clean them up? So it would be very interesting to see, like, can you still do corner glitches, like with the higher resolution models? What new glitches will this introduce? So yeah, an interesting idea and fun thing to explore. So my answer to that is
we'll see. We'll see.
Until then, all we can do is wait eagerly for February 14th.
My birthday.
And hers.
My birthday. I share my birthday with Lara Croft. I already pre-ordered it for my PS5.
I'm waiting to get the physical version. Like, there's a website called, I think, Level Up Studios, where they make really nice collections for limited release games.
Get it all, man. Get it all.
Yeah, why not?
You know, compare them. This whole thing to me, Bill, really does seem like a love letter to Tomb Raider fans. And not just classic. We need to stop with this stupid infighting.
Mm-hmm.
Classic versus, modern. Who cares? We're all Tomb Raider fans.
Yeah. But I do agree. I would like to go back to the classic style, because I'm tired of the family drama.
Me too. I just want a heroine just doing badass stuff because she's a badass heroine.
Yeah, keep the political correctness and the politics out of it and all of the.
I don't think that's gonna happen. It's just. But the thing I will say though, this is a love letter for Tomb Raider fans, and we should treat it like that, and not worry so much about critic reviews. Because the thing about this collection, I can already see the reviews. I can already, it's a classic Tomb Raider gameplay, for better or for worse. Because I know people are going to be complaining about the controls. I know
the controls are going to be the point of contention.
You know what I'm talking about, yeah. We should not worry about that. You know, it's not for the critics. It's for the Tomb Raider fans. For all Tomb Raider fans. For those who are fans of the modern, come on in. Play the classic games. You're more than welcome.
But yeah, another interesting question is like how they've been doing a lot of other collections. Are they going to be including the regional difference versions? Are they going to be including the Japanese version of Tomb Raider 2?
You're doing deep cuts right now.
Because like interesting fun fact, guys, the Japanese version of Tomb Raider 2 is easier than any other version because enemies die in half the bullets it takes on any other version.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah, which a lot of people recently discovered, which made the Japanese version kind of a interesting one to speed run.
Well, there you go.
Everything died quicker. So yeah, interesting things like that. Will they include regional differences? But yeah, that being said, I'm pretty sure all the controls are going to remain untouched simply because there's no way around it. And I was wondering, is it at all possible that they could change the controls? And I wonder this because Resident Evil 2, the classic one, on the Nintendo 64, only on the Nintendo 64, they do have an option to remove the tank controls. Yeah, and with the analog stick, you can have Leon or Claire snap in any direction you want and just move freely with the analog stick. It does work. It does make the camera angles a little bit wonky because you know with the fixed camera angles, every time they switch, the controls are going to change on you every time you do that. So there's going to be times where you're running back and forth between frames because like your controls are quickly adjusting. But it did work, and it made things look a little awkward because now you have the character kind of just snapping into any direction you want. They don't have to like subtly turn realistically, or I guess, or so could they do something like that with Tomb Raider? Possibly, but it would still make jumping from area to area a little bit weird because Lara does have that intentionally put in delay to her jump.
Yeah.
So I guess unless they also made it so that she jumps instantly the moment you press the jump button too. So I guess if you really wanted workarounds, it's possible, but me being the veteran Tomb Raider player that I am, I would probably leave the controls untouched because they were fine the way they were.
Right.
That being said, guys, if you guys want to prepare yourself for the Tomb Raider HD collection, there is nothing wrong with playing the originals, and you have plenty of options to do that. They run great on emulation like DuckStation. They are all available on Steam. However, it's hard for me to recommend the Steam purchases of these games because they're the original PC versions untouched, which means you are going to have to, like, after buying them and downloading them, you're probably going to have to do some Google searching and for some port grease in order to make them function reasonably well on your new computer, because these games were released in the 90s for like Windows 98 and things like that. So getting them to run decently well on today's hardware is not that simple to do. I've tried it and it's a mess. The amount of mods I've had to download and install just to get controller support for these games is ridiculous on PC. So if you do want to play them, you can either get the original PlayStation versions, which are pretty easy and cheap to come by. They're not expensive games at all. Or you can just go the emulation route and play them there until the HD collection comes out, and then purchase the new collection there because, hey, Tomb Raider needs your support.
All the tips and instructions, see?
I'm actually thinking of making a Tomb Raider tips and tricks video in preparation for the HD collection.
That's a great idea
talking about, like, all right, for newcomers out there who want to get involved in the Tomb Raider franchise and play these old games, here are some things you got to know for the old games. Like, step 1, save often. Because, yeah. So
save often. Where's the live by?
Yeah, well, there ain't no checkpoints in this adventure, so save often.
Right.
So that being said, guys, I'm excited for this collection. How about you guys?
Super excited. Can't wait.
So, well, I guess we'll just have to wait for further news and hopefully Aspire or Crystal Dynamics or Embark or Amazon, whoever owns this thing, can give me a review copy so I can get it early and get all. I would like to get a review copy just so that I can actually get everything out there and. Yeah, so work with me, Aspire. Get us an early copy so that we can get everything a look over. We won't break embargo, I swear. We've never done that.
No.
All right, guys. So we'll see you next time. I'm Bill.
I'm Eugene.
Yeah, who cares? And see you when we see you.